In the current Batgirl storyline, Lady Shiva sought out Batgirl for some shit she got herself into, and now Lady Shiva's dead, and she gave Batgirl a diary that's basically a memoir of all of her journey, everything she needed to know about Lady Shiva. The story is providing a retcon, not just for Lady Shiva, but for her long-deceased sister, Carolyn Wusan, as well. But in order to talk about that retcon, we gotta talk about where it all started for Lady Shiva, way back in Richard Dragon Kung Fu Fighter. The very first issue shows Richard Dragon breaking into the temple of O-Sensei. He was trying to steal a statue from there to get money for it. O-Sensei sees him and is like, well, I can't let you leave here with that. And Richard Dragon, like, underestimating him, goes in to whip his ass, and he gets his shit rocked. We then see Ben Turner before he becomes the Bronze Tiger, and he's offering Rich some tea. And Rich is pretty racist right here, because he's like, well, I just got thrown around by a beanbag, and now here comes some refugee from the minstrel show trying to offer me tea. I'm not going to take tea from some ape. My man said that word for word, bar for bar, and Ben Turner's like, all right, well, this is happening now. Ben Turner gave him the Ken and Ryu Street Fighter 2 fucking throw into a pool, and that made Richard Dragon go, all right, maybe I gotta change my ways now. And he sees that this is a place where they're gonna give this guy who's a pretty shit dude a chance. This is a place to be reborn. Sensei's telling him, I see a bunch of hate in your heart, but I think we can get past that because I think you got a great destiny ahead of you. And Richard's like, all right, fuck it, I'm in. And he becomes great friends with Ben Turner, and they spend years here training under O-Sensei, where they learn to master the martial arts. And ironically enough, when they join the organization GOOD, which stands for the Global Organization of Organized Defense, got it right this time, one of their very first missions is stopping a slavery ring. And what's funny is I think the idea was, I forget if it was Richard or Ben Turner's idea, but Richard offers himself up as to be the decoy as a slave for Ben Turner to get in so they can get in close to the guy and stop the shit from going on. Of course, they saw Ben Turner like, we're going to make him a slave as well, but they got inside and then they break up the ring. And then enter Carolyn Wusan, who is the goddaughter of O-Sensei. She was just going to go off to New York and they were going to escort her there, but then she gets kidnapped by this like mobster gangster. They spend a bunch of issues trying to get her back, and in one issue where they're chasing them down and it's a car chase, she gets tossed out the car. Her death, it's before fridging and it's not really gruesome, but basically she's just a plot device here, which I had no idea. Her very last words to Richard Dragon are, we might have meant something to each other one day. I might have even loved you. All right, goodbye. And she just dies. This is where Lady Shiva comes in because she believes Richard Dragon is the one that killed her sister, and she was tricked by that mobster that actually did it. She goes to kill that mobster. Richard Dragon stops her and tells her like, hey, yo, don't become like him. And they spend time going on adventures for good along with Ben Turner. And it's important to note that Shiva basically chooses to go along and do the shit with Richard Dragon because danger follows him, and she has nothing in her life now because her sister's gone. Revenge is the only thing that's driving her. And so now she's like, okay, what do I do outside of revenge now? That's Shiva's beginning. It's a path that she chose. Like, she's a force of fucking destruction, which is why she's named Shiva, after the god of destruction. That is a core element to Lady Shiva, the choice to become what she's become. And later on, when she becomes like a fucking martial arts master and it's killing motherfuckers, 48 confirmed kills to be the best of the best with hands to do it in DC Comics, that too was a choice that she chose. We gotta remember this for later on. In the 2000s, there's another retcon for Richard Dragon. It's his second one, and in this one, instead of meeting O-Sensei and bringing him to his temple, he meets Ben Turner, and Ben Turner is his trainer, who's older. It's a good book, but I hated that they made Ben Turner like his older mentor figure instead of his boy. But the important part of the series is seeing Richard Dragon's influence on the world, since he's become like a recluse in a sense, and now he's coming back into the world. He meets the people that he's trained, well, kind of meets them by proxy, because he didn't realize that he trained Bruce Wayne, Batman, and he meets Nightwing, and Nightwing's like, well, you kind of trained me in a sense, that's why my fighting style is so familiar. You trained the man that trained me, Batman. Now we get into another retcon for Richard Dragon, his second one, as well as a retcon for Lady Shiva. I believe this is her second one as well. We see Batgirl Cassandra Kane learning the actual name of her mother and her aunt. Shiva's actual name is Mingyu, and her sister's name was Mei Jing. We see the group that was hunting down her family and why they had to flee, and their life before they came to America, the village they lived in, where they had to constantly be on the run, and where they trained their skills here before they had to go on the run again. And when they went on the run again, they wound up in Detroit, and they ran into Richard Dragon and Ben Turner. I like this part of the retcon because we see them just, the girls are just whooping ass, and they are nasty fighters. Ben Turner and Richard Dragon are taking up an offer to step to them. They're like, all right, we can do this shit. Let's put this, let's put our training to use. It's dope seeing like a younger Ben Turner and Richard Dragon, and Richard being the like hesitant one, like, I don't know about this. This shit is cool, man. We see like Ben Turner's warming up, like, it's gonna be fine, man. The streets are raving about him. what better chance to test our skill than what we've been learning from O-sensei? I love how they introduce themselves, and Ben's like, yo, you can call me Tiger, and Carolyn Wusan's like, that's what you're going with? Richard Dragon says his name, oh, I'm Richard Dragonovsky. Shiva's just like, yo, pay up, and he's talking to Ben Turner like, hey man, we fucking broke. Ben Turner's like, hey, don't worry about it, I got this round and it's fine, and let's say we do lose. Who doesn't want to get beat up by beautiful women? But we're learning a lot about Ben Turner here. In this fight where we see like, yo, just how sick with the skill Carolyn Wusan and Sandra Wusan are. They work so well in tandem together, and they recognize the moves of Ben and Richard Dragon. They're like, wait a minute, we know these moves. You were taught by O-sensei. He's our godfather. We see them working in unison, and Ben Turner's like, yo, it's like they're talking without words. That's how nasty they are and how coordinated their attacks are as well. Ben and Richard Dragon get their shit rocked, but this is like the beginning of a friendship here, and we see Carolyn Wusan being cool with Ben Turner, and we see Shiva, Sandra Wusan just she's scolding Richard Dragon all the things he did wrong. He's just like, all right, man, all right. It's dope seeing like, oh, this is how they got together. And I like it showing that Carolyn Wusan was more of a part of this instead of just, the girl she was just like the plot device. And she was actually with Shiva when they met these guys. Shiva is the more like strict one. She's like telling them about like the plot for revenge they got, the people that were hunting them down and shit. And Carolyn's like kind of trying to play it off. She's like the more cool and collected one. And she was like, yo, what the fuck, yo? What's going on here? You're playing off our life's mission like a joke, and you kind of make me look like an ass in doing that too. We see Carolyn like, yo, man, I'm always trying to protect you from yourself. Look at what these dudes are doing, what they talk about. Like, yo, it feels like we could rock with them and do some good with these martial arts skills. Like, the good, I didn't realize I was a play on words, like good, the organization that they're going to be rocking with. Dope thing about this retcon is we get to see Carolyn Wusan along with the adventures that her sister went on with Richard Dragon and Ben Turner. I like that Carolyn gets to have more of a life here, and she's like falling in love with Ben Turner. All of them going on all these adventures together. It gives like a little bit of a Power Rangers feel. It's dope to see them all like being close, being a unit. Part I don't rock with is seeing this deity as if it's trying to like pull Shiva towards this direction of destruction, when instead in her original origin it's one she chose. It wasn't one that was destined for her. So what sucks here is that Carolyn Wusan gaining some agency and some like more history is taking away from Shiva's own history, because she then meets David Kane, which was also a retcon for Batgirl and how Cassandra Kane came to be. And if you know Batgirl's history, David Kane is the one that kills her sister Carolyn Wusan because he sees that she's holding Shiva back. And it happens fairly quickly too, where Shiva rushes home to find Carolyn Wusan murdered. And this time Ben Turner and Richard Dragon are there as well because they're all roommates. And Shiva is frustrated, and Ben's like, yo, who did this? Who did this to her? And she's like, Kane. David Kane did this. And if you're not familiar with this story, David Kane killed Carolyn Wusan in order to draw out Shiva's full potential. And she goes to fight David Kane and realizes, oh, he was right. I could be like, I could become so much better. She was holding me back. And David Kane wanted to raise like the best assassin possible, like, and from start, and he knew with Shiva's genetics and his own, he could do that. And that was the deal he wanted to barter with Shiva, and she agrees to it. In turn, him training her and then basically unlocking her potential, and she does, because she's able to whoop his ass. And as soon as she gives birth to Cassandra Kane, she's gone. She's become Lady Shiva. So again, you can see how some things are taken away from her story here in this retcon. And Lady Shiva gave Cassandra this book because she's dead. She stayed behind to sacrifice herself for these folks that were after her because of some shit she did and got Cassandra involved. And along with getting this memoir, this diary of Lady Shiva, the last words she tells her daughter are, go find Bronze Tiger. He's the only one that can help you now, and ask him about the Jade Tiger. I like a retcon when it makes sense, but it just sucks that we lose so much of Shiva's agency for this, even though we get a bit more of her sister. And I find it funny that Shiva sends her daughter out to Ben Turner to find help, and telling her, ask her about the Jade Tiger, because we don't know what that is, or who that is. So let's find out.